we get to after we get divorced to go, okay, let's regroup and retrain?
Yeah, that's a hard question, Rebecca. So let's look at a couple who are wanting to stay together. So I'll get that often, right? Let's say when I in my 12-week course, I have about 2 or 3 couples in every one of those courses. But let's say a couple comes to me and it's their first time, it's their first marriage, and they've been together 10 or 15 years, and they want to work their relationship. Obviously, if there's, to me, I always say, if there's this much love, let's work on the relationship versus, separating and ending up in the same kind of relationship, but now you've separated, now you've separated the kids and so on. So my goal is always, if I can keep people together that kind of want to be together, then that's easy to work. Second piece of my work is, people have been left or they're leaving a relationship and they just don't know what to do. So after we've done, the moving out of each other's houses and the custody and access of the children, and, along a lot of the times, people have not even been separated more than 2-3 months and they're already in another relationship. And what people fail to know is that we have a relationship blueprint. So we have a way of picking partners that are always going to be the same type of partners. And that's okay if you know how to navigate yourself within that. Are you understanding what I'm saying?
Yeah. And like, do you, is it because we just are so afraid to be alone that we go rapidly into an next relationship?
100%.
What is that all about?
People don't want to feel the pain. People don't want to feel the loneliness. People don't want to feel that. They want to feel wanted and loved and, attractive and all of that kind of stuff. And you know what? Okay, if you want to just go date or, have some fun or whatever, but to get into a committed, emotional, long-term relationship, coming out of a separation, you're making, like, it's suicide, because you're going to, this relationship's not going to work. And it's not going to work because you're picking and being the same way that you were in your previous relationship. And so what's really important, and a tool I can give you guys, is ask yourself, what is it that I crave the most as a child, right? So did I crave affection from dad? Let's call it that. So I craved affection from dad. And so what I'm doing is I'm looking outside of myself. First, I left my husband or wife because they weren't affectionate. They didn't give me affection. They didn't know when I wanted affection. So the blame game, right? And so we blame our first partner. We build a case against it. Then we leave, or we leave each other. And we find the first person who's going to give us affection. And we think, oh my God, this is love. Well, actually, what you don't know is that 6, 7, 8 months down the road, that partner is also going to stop giving affection to you because you don't even know how to call it up for yourself. And if you're looking for something outside of yourself, you're never going to get it. You will never sustain it in a relationship. It'll never happen. Do you understand that?
Yeah, I do. But sometimes when I listen to you, and I just think it's impossible for people to move on because it just seems so complicated.
To move
it seems
on?
Complicated. Yeah. People are complicated.
But it really not, Rebecca. If you can really commit, saying, okay, I am committing to being alone for 1 year from the date of separation, right? So I move out, I get into my own house, and I am going to commit to me, recreate my family with my children, and have a strong bondish family with your children. And I'm not saying don't date. I'm saying don't get into a committed long-term relationship and bring her children, his children, our children all together. I'm saying allow yourself and the children to take a year to heal. Take a year to get out of the resentment, get out of the blame game, get out of all of the petty stuff that you and your partner or, you bitched about or fought about. Get out of that. Get out of that and get to a place where you're reconciling what happened. You're moving forward. You feel good. You feel great about being, in your own space, feel alone. You feel good about your family and your children, that you've recreated the family. Now it's time now you can go date, and go date with understanding red flags, understanding when you're not saying what you should be saying because you just want to be in a relationship. Understand that I ask, 90% of the people that I work with, I ask them, when you were walking down the aisle, did you know that there was a red flag? 90% of people say yes. Yes. And some people have been married 30, 40, 25 years. And I ask them that question. Did you have a red flag walking down the aisle? Yeah, but I did it anyways. And the thing I'm going to share next week is the chart. And I'm going to explain to you guys this in a little bit more detail. But for the spirit of today and the show, I'm going to really talk about and stress on how being alone for a year is probably the healthiest thing you could ever do for yourself and your children.
Okay. And so can you just give us a couple of examples of what red flags people might have noticed, or what do you call a red flag?
So a red flag would be something like, you're dating and you're saying, when you do this, it feels like this. And the person would say, well, no, that's stupid. I don't know why you would be feeling like this. Like, it makes no sense. So what happens, right? What happens to the person kind of trying to say what they feel, they'll probably withhold it the next time. And then they won't feel heard. They're not going to feel important or valued. And that sets the theme for the rest of their lives.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying? So the red flags in the beginning are really, really important for you to address and to look at. But a lot of the times we're so afraid of being alone that we just forget about these red flags. And then we end up living together. And now we're bringing our kids in with their kids and we're living together. And it's going to break down. At some point, that relationship is going to break down as well, and faster than the first breakdown.
Okay. So what kind of tip do you have to prepare us for the next episode next week?
So my tip is this: if you can answer what you needed the most as a child or what you craved, so that's number one. And number two is, what do you do when there's conflict? Do you go and rescue? Do you withhold and pretend like, so that's a rescue. Rescue is withholding and pretending everything's okay. Do you withdraw and just say nothing and kind of feel like a bit depressed? Or do you project and get really angry and be a villain to the other party? So I'm going to go into a little bit more explanations on the chart that I work with and when I work with people.
Okay, so can we just sort of give like a little idea about that chart, if I remember from looking at it and hearing you? It has to do with the Disney World format, like the villain.
Yeah. And how and where do you got to be when you're ready to start dating again, right? But I also want to explain, the first year, and I call it the black hole of hell, right? When you're deciding to get separated or you're being left or you've come to terms with, this is where we're at. It takes 4 to 5 months to even, like, by the time you do the separation and the dividing and the moving, you in those 4 or 5 months, you're just in adrenaline and you're just in action and reaction. So you're not even present to your life, right? And so for me, yes, we can understand the dating scene and we can understand moving forward, but let's understand that first year.
Okay.
As well,
so understanding the first year, after we leave, after we get, living it, and sort of seeing what we do during that first year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's what we're going to talk about next week in more detail. And you're going to bring in some video, like an image.
I'm going to bring my little chart, and I'm going to explain to you guys my little chart. And my little chart's going to also explain, maybe what happened and why it happened and how you guys got so broken. Let's put it that way.
Wow. Well, looking forward to it.
Yeah. And I'm not allowed to use you as an example, right?
That's right. But I'll bring my Band-Aids.
You do that.
So,
all right. Anything else? So what I can, what I want to leave you guys with is basically, really, really take an inventory of all of the bricks that you put up while you were married, right? And those bricks are like kind of blames. I remember, he wasn't there when I fell and broke my leg, and this is what I needed, but he or she wasn't there. I needed to be supported through the loss of my job, and she was not there. Like, really do an inventory. And then what we're going to do is get out of the blame game and say, what could you have done with this? What should you have done?
Okay, great.
Okay.
So that's about it for today's show, and we'll be back next Monday. So Diane Valley-Kett, the divorce recovery coach with the Relationship Show, 4 p.m.
Thank you, Rebecca.